Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. In the last video, I forgot about the name of them. They were called Fitzserts. Well, guess what? I got Fitzserts. I had 20 of these. I got one left. Stick around. Well, it's early Monday morning. We're supposed to get snow today. They say we're supposed to get snow, and it's the 1st of June. Something else in it? Well, I got starting of a full week on this now. I'm going to see what I can get done. I have a list there. Welcome back to the VIC100 build. And here's my list of things that I got. I got a full week to myself now. I'm going to see how much of this list I can get done. I'd love to get them all done. Whether that happens, I don't know. So I'm going to get work on this. But first thing I'm going to talk about is a few people talked to me about where I cut up the hinge in my last video. I'm going to cover what I did in the last video. What did I do? I made this inner fender well. I mounted that hinge. I repaired the brace that's on the firewall there, made it work. I think that's all I did. Oh, and I welded up the front valance. That's what I done on it. Welded the side pieces on the valance. And a lot of people talked about it. I had to cut the hinge up right here in order to make the actual hinge close down and clear the actual heater motor. And the spring goes from here back to there. Now, some people talked about taking it off and moving it up. But if you look closely at how this swings, okay, the original brace went right here, like so, and the spring went forward to that. But this section here interferes with the closing now, and it brings up in the actual heater box, okay? The problem I'm having is I don't like the idea of welding this back on again, first of all. I know this is only steel, but still now, that spring is under tension. And over time, this would probably rock back and forth like so. I would probably reinforce it. But the problem I run into is where to weld it on. I could possibly weld it on there somewhere. Let's see if I can get in here. I could possibly weld it on here somewhere. Right, like so, if I wanted to. I could possibly do that. I have ideas on using a shock to run off the front right here, coming forward to here, using the ones off the Crown Vic, the hood ones. Now, here's the thing that I'm not too concerned about this. I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to address all this when I get the hood mounted, because the biggest thing is I don't know where this hinge is going to sit yet. And until I find exactly where the hinge sits, I'm not going to be able to figure none of this out. And I'm not going to bother with mounting the hood on this yet, because I want to finish the inner fender well and finish some other stuff. The hood is going to be the last thing that I put on this for fitment, because I want to get everything mounted on this and fitted where everything got to go, so I can turn around and blow it all apart and start doing body work on it. One of the reasons I'm not too concerned about it, because over here the spring goes back through here and it interferes with the computer. And if I goes to put a shock on the inside, my plan is to go run a shock from here down to here somewhere, this way here. And the shock is, I think, 8.5 inches long, closed. And then it opens up to, I think it's like 16 inches. And if you open up these hoods, that'll push that up to there, right? So basically from here down to about here somewhere would be the distance that it'll push up. And it'll work the same way it works on the truck or on the Crown Vic. That's the idea I got in my head. But to simplify it, if I can keep the spring there and move the computer over, that'd be fine too. And you never know what I might do over here yet. You don't know. I might move that around and have to raise it up, move it ahead, and I might be able to put that back on where it's got to be. But for now, I'm just going to leave everything alone. I have a lot of other things to worry about, and I'm going to have to put the hood on it in order to figure that out. It's a new issue. I have other issues that I've been thinking long and hard about, the inner fender well, the radiator, that type of stuff. This one came after, so I'm going to repair it after. So first thing I'm going to go at here now today is I got to get the inner fender well put in it. And what the problem I got with this side, unlike this side here had a bolt in the back, and then I had a spot up front here where I can bolt it on. I just drill holes and I bolt it on. I want to get this inner fender well mounted on this side here. Now down here in the bottom right here, you can see there's a little bolt with a sleeve in it. The inner fender well slides down into that there. But up front, there's nothing for it to mount to. So I got to find something to mount to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off it, because I wanted the fender off it in order to make this fit the inner fender well anyway. So I'm going to blow everything apart here now and have it so that I can put the inner fender well in place and figure out a way that I can mount the inner fender well and have it there permanently. And then I'm going to start trimming this to fit the inner fender well. So I got everything stripped off this side here. Now, here's where I'm going to start. Right here is a tab. This tab here, the inner fender well used to slip down on it and rest on it here, and that was his height. Right here, you can see the little bit of rust lines right here. This is where the tab used to rest up against his here. Now, what I got done on the other side is I lowered the back of the inner fender well about 1 inch. So I'm going to trim off this section right here 1 inch. I'm just going to come straight across this way here and then down here, so that way the back of the inner fender well will drop 1 inch. So I cut off 1 inch. Now some of you that are new here are wondering why I'm doing that. I'm lowering the inner fender well in this truck for clearances on the top side. Over on this side, you can see the lower hinge bolt, okay? And the way I got this set up here and going along here. Now the other side is more like this than it is this here. So it's going to be even tighter to that hinge bolt. The problem I got by leaving this in the factory location, this would have been about right here. There's not much left of the actual inner fender well, and I'm going to be, that back hinge there, that bolt, that will actually be cut right off there for the inner fender well to work, or the way I'd have to do is much the same as what I got done here. I have to channel it down into it. That's the reason why I'm lowering it down, just so I can get that clearances, so I'll have a bit of meat up here on the top. This here has stock suspension in it, and from factory you can lay frame in these and they won't, well, I wouldn't say lay frame, you can pull all the suspension on, but it doesn't interfere with the inner fender wells. So I got no worries about tapping this here by lowering it 1 inch. Look what I got rigged up here, look. I had to do that in order to get this to sit where I wanted to. So I got the little piece of scrap angle steel here. Just clamped down up there and a bit of 2x4. Still got to come up a small bit more. I've been playing around from side to side trying to get an idea where everything is going. The problem I got is up here in front I got nothing to mount to. I got the spot on the back that I got the thing slipped down. I'm going to do the same thing on this side as I did. I'm going to plan on doing on the other side. I'm going to drill a hole into the chassis. I can probably put a button or something in it just to keep it steady. Playing around measurements, distances, heights, all that type of stuff, trying to get it symmetrical to the other side. The only problem with it is that two of these inner fender wells are nothing alike. Like even this raised section here is taller on this side than it is on this side here because of this inlay. So I'm just basing it off, and this is about all I got to go by right here. Look, this distance right here I want to have consistent on both sides, and that's basically it. The same distance here, same distance back here on the back side. That's what I'm shooting for. I got to trim a lot of that off outside there. Outside of here, like on the other side, I had to trim all this section here off back to about to here to get everything to fit down over it. Because it only trims the inside section, this section here. This gets trimmed, this don't. So it's got to cut to fit that. So what I got done here now, I got this figured out. What I got to do now is figure out some way of mounting it to the red sport up here in the front so it can sit on its own. So I got to run a piece of steel up to this now and find some way of mounting to this here, which of course is not flat. It's a curved edge. So I got to deal with that. So I might dream up something there, now a piece of steel shaped like that with a flange welded onto it that I can actually screw to or put nuts and bolts in, and that'll be bolted or welded to the actual rad sport itself. So I'm going to go see what I can figure out for that now. So I got a piece of steel here, the old door handle section. I got one little spot here. It's going to be the perfect size. I'm going to use that there now and make something from that there. Some people talked about putting these on the actual F100. No, 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 no. I'm not into that. I don't like modern door handles. I like old-fashioned button-pushing door handles. No, this stuff here, no, just not. It's not for me. Someone else might like it. I'm not fussy on it. I like the exterior of the vehicle to look originally stock, with just minor changes done to it. Adding modern stuff to it. When I see it, all I see is I see Crown Vic door handles. I don't see custom door handles. I see Crown Vic door handles. So, but to each their own. I'm going to cut this piece out now and start bending this up. So here's what I come up with. I went and got it all cleaned off here now. And I want to bend up these 3 corners. This is where the V4 brake comes in handy. I went and took out 2 sections, so now I can actually put that in there and bend them corners there, and I don't have to worry about that. I can actually, and then move it over to this side here to bend this side. Bend that there. So I can bend up the 3 corners on this now and have them all in 90 degrees with no interferences. I can't do that on my old brake. This is the reason why I wanted this brake. It's this particular reason here. Calls it a box and pan brake. This is what you make, boxes. Move this over to here. Ah, I did it again, look. This is what you can make with a brake like this. I'll make that. I wanted some structure on it. I'm going to weld these corners. This is going to be bolted on or welded on in front. And I'll cut this here to fit the inner fender well, and there'll be tabs put on it here, and that'll be the brace that'll hold it in place. So I've been over trimming it up, test fitting it, trimming it up. This is what I come up with. That'll go there like that, and that'll be mounted to there. Never got carried away with it again. I just found something close to it, which was that container off Nuts and Bolts on Toyota, on the Krusty. And I just found the middle of the measurement here and just start trimming it. Then I just trimmed it as I went, and I just cut that off. I used a grinder to cut it out. Nothing fancy. You can see the way I grinded that off. Just cut with a grinder. When you're cutting with a grinder in a circle, you're not cutting down through, you're cutting the top. Just keep cutting like this here, and it'll fall down this way here. And you work your way around. You're only using the very edge of the blade. You're not cutting like regular steel. You're not cutting it this way. You're cutting it down. So now I found this over my little stash of metal over there. That's going to go right there as a face plate that I want to be able to mount to. So I'm going to get this here now, mounted in place, welded on, trimmed up, and that piece will be done. I'm going to weld up the 4 corners on it. I got the angle right here now. I'm going to weld up them, so that way I got something here. This is all support for that actual inner fender well. It don't have to be heavily or overly built, because there's a lot more going to hold that fender well on and up on the top side. But this is just so I can get a position where I want it to go, so I can actually start fitting the upper piece. And there you have it, a simple little bracket. Nothing fancy, just welded up the 4 corners on it, welded up on the inside, welded up on the outside, grind and dressed it off, cut off the lip, left myself lots of room there that I can actually mount to, and that there will mount onto the front of it there. Not sure how if I'm gonna weld this on here or bolt it onto the rad support and just clamp this on or bolt this on here. But I think for now I'm just gonna clamp it all together and might put a couple of bolts in it just temporarily. I gotta find my height, so all I'll do is I'll bolt it on here and then I'll just clamp it on here. So here's how it's mounted. Got a couple of bolts in there, bolted it on. And then I just got vice grips on it for now because I'm not sure where exactly it's going to be. I played around with it, moved it around, got the consistencies where I wanted it to down here, distances, the same to this side here, right? The heights, where's to reference to the inner fender well. I got that, the height here. I went out and compared it to the Crown Vic and it's about an 3/4 of an inch lower here, which I wanted. And down in here I got a pair of vice grips put on it to hold it in place, plus the little tabs, hard to see in there, but there's a tab in there. Hello tab. There's a tab right there. So what I got to do now, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to start fitting the inner fender well and start trimming everything up. So here's the first test fit. I did pretty good on the cutting. You can see I'm about 1.5 inches here and about 1.5 inches on the back. Too high right here. Now when you look in here, you can see that this is going to interfere right here. So I got to cut this part of the inner fender well off. Come back to about here somewhere and cut it off. Up to here and cut it off. Just so I can lower this down. And then I'm going to mark this out here now. I'm going to go along here and mark this and take probably another inch out of it and see where it takes me. Once you does one, you'll find that, okay, this is what I need to do. So you'll find this one here a lot easier and easier to do because you know where you got to make all your cuts and what issues you're going to run into. I have a little thing here that the triangle sticks out right here. So I got to trim this up because this here has to be pushed back a small bit. I figured this comes out on a bit of an angle here now, and when I push it over to line up the hole, it brings up in this here, so I got to notch that. Back here, I got to do the same thing I did with the other one. I got to notch the inner fender well. Some talked about heating it up in plastic. I'm not fooling around with that. I just want to get a nice tight fit, and later on if there's any issues with it. As you can see, there's dirt and mud on these now, so a little bit of splashed water up through there, it's not going to cause no troubles at all. I got a mark where I want to put the tab. I'm welding a piece across here that I can drill up through. That'll be on the bottom side, it'll be mounted here, going from one side to the other, that I can drill up through and put a button in it there and a button in the back there. What else did I do? That's pretty well it. Yeah. So I'm pretty well ready now that I can pull this out and do the modifications to do this, do the modifications to this here, and we'll have this inner fender well pretty glued up. I've got a few small things that I want to do with the inner fender wells up here, this section here. I still got to fit the battery tray in it. The battery goes here, so I don't know how far over that's got to go this way for the battery to actually fit in there, because I got to get the radiator next, right? So, but before we moves on to anything else, I'm going to pop this off and get all the fabrication and the welding done on it and get that ready so we can actually call this one done. So I got them plates made up. They're just bent over on a 90. I drilled out holes here, plug welded them in here, plug welded them in here, plug welded them on the inside here. Got them all grinded off where they were, right there. Someone brought up the whole point of welding the lip along that there. There's really no need of it. If you want to be dressed it up nice, you probably could, you know, but I really have no real need of wanting to put a lip on that. Someone mentioned about these plates. I should weld them on the inside. Yes, they will be welded on the inside when I figures out where the hinge goes. I don't know where the hinge goes because I haven't got the hood on it yet. I'm liable to have the oblong them holes, drill new holes back here farther, or be up here and into here and have weld pieces on this. Like, you know, I don't know what I'm getting myself into trying to get that hood to fit. But I wasn't thinking too far ahead. I set this all up so it was all at its low settings, and that's where it's going to fit. What I got left to do here now is I got to drill a hole here and here for two little plugs. I also notched it here for the inner fender well. You can see it there. and I rounded off some edges and cleaned up my edges and round off this inside edge here. So I got all that done now. What I'm going to do is once I get stem marked there, I'm going to put the plating system in place and bolt the hinge in place. And that way I can turn around and put this in place without having to worry about bolting the hinges up, because that plating system now with the inner fender well in it is going to be hard to get at. So it's going to have to go in through there now ahead of time. So I'll go over now and get these here mounted in place and get the holes drilled for them. Over here, it's nothing fancy. Wasn't fooling around trying to heat that up, because I would have pulled all that down. Wasn't going making up little plates and everything to put underneath it to make a little pocket to push down, because I don't even know if that's going to interfere with the hinge. I may have to raise the hinge right up and that would have been perfect. Regardless, it doesn't matter. I have another set of inner fender welds if it gets that bad, if I realise I don't need the hole. But I want this to work now for alignment purposes. And when I get everything figured out, then I'll fine tune everything after the fact. But for now, that's what I got done. So just a simple, I'm not worried about a bit of dirt and everything, a bit of water splashing up through there. If I want to, I can put a bit of rubber or something over that there with a few buttons, much the same as the way these are done. Right here. And just put a couple of plugs in it, and just have it so soft that you can push down on it. And then you can put the hinge back in place. Simple as that. I'm going to go ahead now and get this here marked so I can get the few holes drilled for the plugs. So I fit it up in place. I had to trim off some of the actual mortar panel because this was bringing up and keeping this come up, because that plate that I put in there now was actually bringing up in this lip here. So then I went and drilled up through the bottom side, through this and through the plate with a 1/8 bit. And I went and drilled this one out. This is bigger than it needs to be. Did the same thing back here. Drilled it out so it's bigger than it needs to be. Over here, there's one hole there. There's the other hole there. I'll take them little push buttons now and I'll push them in there and they'll be done. I figured now's a good time to bolt the hinge on. I'm going to have a hard time getting the plate in on the back side of that there later on when it comes time to do it. But once I get it positioned, the nose work got to go all well in place, and then the nuts will be where they got to be, and I'll just get the rest on adjustment. I figured I'd bolt them on now, have it done. That way when I put it, I got to put in the lowest position. And hopefully now it doesn't interfere anymore with the inner fender well. I rubbed a small bit up here in front when I done a quick test fit on it, but I'm not too concerned about it. I'm going to go over now and bolt this thing back in the truck and call this job done. So I got it all put back together again. I went ahead then down here and drilled out the 2 holes in the front. I think I'm going to have that bracket so it bolts on. It'll bolt on here and it'll bolt on here. That way I can have it separated. I'm lacking a bunch of these bolts. I'm trying to source them and pick up some 5/16 nuts and have everything so it just bolts together easy, like the way I got it done here. I had to go in and trim up around the hinge a small bit right here, but it fits best kind there now. But that's inner fender well number 2, so now I got both inner fender wells in it. And I'm pleased with it. This one here came out a lot nicer, but you can see the distance here is roughly the same as the distance there. So they got that symmetrics, and even the bolts where the hinges goes down through. You can see now, looking at 2 of them, they're roughly the same. So I haven't got everything bolted back on it now because I got this done. I'm going to be blowing the whole front off of this anyway, but I got all the modifications done. I got to drill a hole down here on both sides to put a button or something. I never bothered to put a button up in there. The holes are there now, but I just never bother with them because they're too hard to get out. I got other things I got to get done. The modification, the heavy modifications are done because I still got to bolt the hood on. So I'll have to tighten all this up and bolt this down before I actually push the hood on. But I'm not too concerned about that right now because my next hobble now is this radiator. I got to get the radiator, the condenser, and the transmission cooler all in there. And from what I can use the other Crown Vic as a reference point, but my understanding was that these 3 holes here, okay, I can take this hole here and move it ahead 2 inches, and I can clear everything on the front of the engine. This is what I got to look into now, so I got to go out and dig out all the stuff that needs to put the radio and everything in this. I'm probably going to dig up the battery box too, see if I can figure out how that bolts in, because that goes in on this side over here. And I could probably modify it to fit here. So what I'll do now is I'll go out and dig up all the parts for the next project. Ooh, that reminds me. something else off the list. So I managed to dig out all the main components. This is the lower cross member. These are them ones that I point out the 3 holes in the top of the rails. The radiator in this goes in kind of strange. It mounts on this here, which is mounted underneath the bottom of the frame rail. These are mounted on top of the frame rail, which are mounted right here on the side of the actual radiator. There is no upper rad support type piece on it. But here's the condenser, and this is the trans cooler, I think, or the power steering cooler. I'm not quite sure. I think it's trans cooler. Maybe I'm wrong. It's power steering cooler. But I'm going to adapt all this here. I'm going to bolt all this here back onto the other side of it. I'm hoping the other, because this one here, that's the condenser, and that one there is transmission cooler. And that's the power steering one there, yes. Okay, so power steering cooler and transmission coolers right here, which is gone on this one. The other car, I think, has it on it, and is in good shape. I was already looking at it. So when I strips apart that car, I'll just replace this, but I'm just using this for mock-up right now so I can get it all in position. And if the other one's bad, I'll have to order one for it. That's it. But yeah, so what I got to do now is I got to rig all this up here and get this so I can actually bolt it all together and just lay it down in place into the thing and just start figuring out where everything got to go. Quite interesting, as there's one bolt right here, and that's it. These slips on, this slips on, snaps on over here, and the condenser and the trans cooler just slides over on this little thing here, one here, and then you just put the one bolt up in the corner. There's another stop over here. It's pretty straightforward. These ones down here now will mount in this thing here, which I gotta find. But of my understanding that the radiator, when it was in the Crown Vic, was mounted on an angle, and I think you just move it like this here and straighten it up. I could be wrong, but I got them laid in place now. I'm going to go ahead now and just lay it in the engine bay and see where it's to. So I got it laid in place, and what I got done right here, you can see here, that's roughly 2 inches forward from that hole. That hole there, that was originally here. Now, by rights, this got to be over here. I just did this just to hold it in place. This mount has to come over this way a small bit. But by moving that forward, that's the 2 inches that everybody's talking about. And I heard fellas talking about moving it ahead to the next hole and bolting it down, that type of stuff. So I got that done there. And over on this side here, I had the same thing done over here. But what I did, I let it relax and I put a pair of vice grips on it so that it was lined up. There's the hole. It's back 2 inches from there, but it's moved out. So it has to be on the outer section of the rail, like the way it is here, for it to go. And the reason why I relaxed this one here, because the one issue that I'm seeing here, everything else seems to be working pretty good here. The one problem is going to be the transmission lines. They come forward, they come up, they come out through underneath this here, and then they turn out here and come down and then go in here. Now if you look in here, there is the transmission mount location. There's one, and there's the second one up on top there. One line comes out there, and one line comes out here. And the problem I'm going to have is that this here is all in the way. I've seen a lot of guys when they cut them up. Like I said, there are sections of the rad support that guys used to cut out of them. I got this marked here now. The transmission lines comes out, they turn up, and they go back in this way, in this section right here. And I'm looking at, like, there's the mount in there. You can barely see the mount in through there. And they pass in underneath the mount. I've been out looking at the other Crown Vic, and I noticed that, like, the transmission lines comes out to possibly here somewhere by the time it gets to bend and everything. And I've seen fellas bending them and tweaking them and doing them all. I'm trying to do this so that I should be able to fit all this together. I'm not putting a transmission, because the transmission lines are still on the transmission out there and the engine. So I need to try to figure out a way that I can make something here that I'm sure, or hopefully, will clear the lines. And all I'm planning on doing is cutting this entire section out. All this here, I'm going to cut it out. But I got to drop this section down here, somehow come across here, and then reinforce it all. I want to keep everything nice and solid in through here. The same with coming up through here. I plan on possibly doing like a lip all the way down through here, coming around and looping around and coming back up again like this. and just have it so there's a big slot there. So the lines can come out and then go up and go back in again. Now I'm probably going to have to modify the actual front valance as well, where that goes. And I think the part of the radiator has to be trimmed off as well, or the grill. So what I'm going to do here now is going to mark a few spots. I'm going to trim up a few things here now and just basically get this fitting better, because I think this still has a tip ahead a small bit on the bottom, and this here is the actual core itself is stopping it from coming forward. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark a few things here now, trim up a few things, and see if I can get this radiator fitting proper. I'm going to mark these holes down here and figure these out, move them back 2 inches and drill the holes and have all that done, and tap them like the way they're tapped there. And so I can actually bolt this bracket on. And all I'm going to do is going to go from the front hole here, go back 2 inches, drill a hole, and then I'm going to turn around and bolt one bolt down, and I'm going to mark these other 2 and drill and tap them as well. Do the same with the other side. So that is done, because that's what I'm going to end up doing with it. Putting radiator where's to. It's just a matter of me figuring out what way I'm going to address this over here on this side here, how I'm going to tie it all together so I can actually make it all the rad support one piece. Because remember now, I got the actual front valance bolts on here, and I want to reinforce that section in there. So I might end up doing something here along here and just giving it a bit more strength. So I'll go figure some things out and make a few cuts, and I'll bring it back. So here's what I got done so far. Down here, I ended up cutting the bottom out of this down here, but before I cut the bottom out of that, what I did is I wanted to put a bit of strength to this here, and I wanted to bend up this flange. This is what I did. I bent up the flange all the way along here, cut it on both ends first, right where I wanted it to bend, because I wanted to cut this out. I didn't want to cut all this out. This would have been hard to bend when I cut all this out. So I just did a split in here, and then I bent it up. There's nothing fancy used there. All I did is I took a piece of old bed iron and laid that down inside there, clamped it on, and hammered it over. That's all I did there. And it went across here. So I got that done. That'll give that some more strength. Then I went out to the car and started sizing up different things. And I measured up, and I went according to what the boys were saying, 2 inches. So all I did is I scribed from the front hole to the rear hole. I scribed a straight line along there, so I just want to move the whole thing back 2 inches. And all I did was scribed it, punched it, and I laid one in place, and then lined up the back hole on my scribe line, and then center punched the 2 brackets, center punched the bracket itself. I didn't want to fool around trying to do this at all measurements. I just found a drill bit that fit down inside the hole here, tight, and I drill these out 1/8 and then just drill them out. What's cool about these bolts, they're self-tappers. I was going to tap them, but all you got to do is just have the hole started, put that in it, and run the impact gun down over it, and that just goes right on in there, right nice, huh? What I got done here now is I got all the holes made for this side here, and the whole thing is moved back 2 inches from the front. So this is the new front hole, there's the old front hole, and then this is the center hole here, and then this is the back hole here. So I got that one side done, and I'm over here now, and I got this side done as well. Done the same thing over here. You can see where I scribed the line. There's my 3 new holes there. So now I got the brackets all figured out. That I got to put that in place. I can put the radiator back in it again now. So I got it all back in place again. And I'm very pleased where it's to. I'm amazed the amount of room that's actually there. Like, I didn't have to move it back as far as that. But if I never moved it back that far, I would have had to get into cutting all this up. Now I went out and measured up where the farthest piece back on the actual Crown Vic is, there's a can that goes up there for filling up the radiator, and I measured that up to the front of the engine is almost 3 inches. So that's going to only be about 1 inch now, or 3/4 of an inch, whatever, away from the front of the engine there. Just looking at different things that might get in the way. I'm down here now sizing up this condenser, or whatever it is, belonging to the air conditioning. And I got to notch the mount here, because I got to move this back 1 inch, because where I move this back here, this here interferes. This here is the transmission lines. Clips onto there, and I don't want to remove that. And I want to give it a little bit of room there, so I'm going to move that back 1 inch, and then I got to notch this right here. for this hose. I'm trying to rig this up so that everything factory will mount in there, because I've got to buy a new one of these condenser things. This one's pretty rusty. Other than that, I got this piece of cardboard put here for a spacer on the actual line here so it doesn't rub here, and that will be the point. I got the lower brace put in. This is brace here, just laid in place for now. I got to drill a few holes up through the frame rail in order to mount that. I'm here sitting down now, sizing everything up. You can see where the line is going to come out through here. But what it boils down to now, I'm sizing up a lot of stuff here. I got to take the radiator or the rad support off in order to mount this bracket here, because I need to get access to the inside the frame rail. And I'm looking at a lot of stuff here now, sizing things up, and I'm thinking it's just like I'm going to have to take off the rad support to do some repairs. I want to put a nice lip on this here, because this here got to be all cut out. I got to figure out some way of joining all this here back together again, but have it so that there's a cavity right here, an opening, and then all I got to worry about is modifying other stuff, like the front valance or something. I'll go worry about that later to clear the transmission lines. But other than that, no, I am pretty pleased with everything. It's all bolted down in that location we're supposed to bolt down. You can see how this mounts now. It just mounts here and bolts down 3 of them. Then there's another one on the bottom side that mounts up. Now I could have moved this ahead another ½ an inch if I wanted to, but I would have had to modify it for the actual power steering cooler to clear the front. Yeah. Like I had to notch the actual mount here to clear the ABS brakes. I'm not removing none of that because it's all in good shape and it's all rigged up on the car now. I just got to plug it in. The brakes are already bled on this car. Like, you know, by rights, if I put the motor transmission in this car, I can drive it. I haven't got to do nothing with the brakes. I'm upgrading them now, on you. Replacing a lot of the stuff. But all the brake lines on this car, that's the lot they're like there. It's amazing. The fittings are something else. I got them all sprayed now, all the fittings, just to keep them clean. But I'm pleased with everything. That was not bad for one day. Today's Monday, and I got the inner fender well done. Got that figured out. Got that mounted, and I got the radiator, I'd say 75% ironed out. So tomorrow now, I should get this radiator all finished up and mounted, the condenser mounted, and I should get all this, since I got to take this off, I might as well weld all the back of it up and get all the welding got to be done on this done. I also got to rig up this thing here. I might do a bunch of that stuff tomorrow before I even takes it off and get it done. Because once I start blowing everything apart, it's kind of hard, because I need the fenders and everything on it to put the piece across here to rig all that up, to make up the plating system for that. So, yeah, I'm pleased with it so far. I'm going to call her a night, and I'll be back at it again tomorrow. Up bright and early this morning, Peanut. Huh? New day, new challenges. So, got to thinking about everything that's going on here. What I'm going to do here first is I'm going to mock up a little piece of metal there so I get an idea of how low I got to have it and bend it around here for clearances for that line. So I'm going to get something now make up to go around here like that, just a flat piece of steel. And I'm just going to have something that I can say, okay, that's the shape it's got to be, that's how low it's got to be, because I don't want to go welding this all up and then realize it's not right. It might have been wise that I had to fit the hood on this first and bolt that down and get that figured out. Problem there is I'm going to need a hand with that. I'm here by myself. So that hobble has to go on hold. So I got to continue on. So what's going to end up happening here is I got to blow this all apart and then put it all back together again. Which is no big deal. I'm not worried too much about that. I still have some things I got to clue up on it. Some bolts got to be welded on. Nuts got to be welded on. I got to pick up some nuts and some bolts for this project. But what we're going to do here today, we're going to finish up this rad sport. We're going to get that all welded up, get that done, and finish up getting this radiator mounted. And get the AC condenser, I suppose, or whatever that thing is called down there. Get that mounted and get that figured out. And that's my goals for the day. I don't want to go getting too in over my head. It doesn't seem like much, but you don't know, I might run into some troubles. Once we get that done, we'll move on to something else. So I'm going to make up a little piece of steel for this now, and then when I get that done, I'm going to blow this all apart. I went over, and there was a piece on the bench that had half a curve in it, so I just went over and started massaging it. And then I trimmed it up. And I think that's more than enough there, looking through there, to be able to get in there for that to clear. It's going to be tricky down bolted and whatnot, but I'll cross that bridge. As long as I got the clearances there for the line to clear. I got that piece there now that'll go in there when I'm ready. This will be my gauge to tell me how low I got to go. So I'm going to go ahead now and blow this all apart. So I got everything stripped apart here now, and you can see it better. I got voice grips put on that lower cross member now that I got to install. You can see it here. I got drilled up to the rail. They used to bolt on right here. There used to be clips that went in there, and there was nuts and bolts went up through there. Or there was a clip and then a bolt went up through it. I've got it twisted now a small bit so that it's straight. You can see there's a bit of movement in the rubber right here. You can see where I got this notched here. Been sizing up the rad support, trying to figure out how I'm going to mount it, and I'm not going to overthink this. Going through the trouble of trying to put that on rubber mounts. I'm running into all kinds of clearance issues with stuff. It's going to be in the way. I'm over-analyzing this here. I'm going to keep these here. I'm going to weld them on solid. I got another hole marked in the bottom. I'm going to put 2 bolts in it here and 2 bolts in it over there, and that's what's going to hold the rad support in place. There's no support on the front of this. The radiator, nothing hangs on this. I'm probably going to put a bit of a plating system or something out here to take the strain of it. Like I'll probably weld another piece on the outside of this and drill it out. I got a hole drilled right here. Underneath there's where the 2 holes go, so I'll probably put something on the outside of it here just to take the weight of it. Most times it's supposed to be in a rubber isolator so it can all move around, stuff like that. But like I'm to the point now where I'm looking at all this and it's like all the trouble I got to go through to make a mount for this here, and I really don't think it's going to make all that much of a difference, because the original one, the radiator and everything mounted to this, so it all had to move, right? But nothing mounts to this other than the grill and the fenders. And if it rubs on the doors or whatever, if it starts to twist and stuff like that, I'll address it then. I just got to get this thing built. So I'm going to weld them on, drill 2 holes in them there, drill holes down here. I got to notch this here for this piece here to clear. I got to bolt that to the frame, got drill holes for that, get that mounted where it's got to go, and that'll be pretty well it for the radiator. I got it all set up then, because this is the way the transmission lines used to come out. They came out here, and they came up, and they turned back and went in this way here. And I'm putting the original ones back on it again, and I'm modifying the rad support to clear them. I see a lot of people bending them and tweaking stuff. I'm going to just try to build them so I can just bolt them on, and that's the extent of it. Right? Because I intend to put the motor and transmission and everything in this car, get everything plumbed and wired before I put the clip on it. I'm putting the fenders and the rad support on it last, because I don't need none of this to bolt anything on the front of it. So I'll modify the stuff as I'm putting it on front here if I runs into any issues with this here. But I can bolt this all together here and get the truck running with no front on it. That's the whole point of that. Well, I suppose I got to put the inner fender wells and everything in. We'll figure something out. But anyway, over here to the rad support. This is the spot I got cut out. Right here. I got that U-shaped piece I got to put in there. And I got to reinforce this somehow up along here for this piece here. Come up along here. And make this here all one piece again, but have this open on the top side. So I'm going to do some sort of little brace down along here to have it sort of tips down underneath it, and all that. And this is the stuff that I said I had to weld up. I'm going to trim this up here, weld all this up on the inside. Over here on the end, you can see there's a little lip here. I'm going to continue on with that lip down through here. I'm also going to continue on with this lip here, all the way along here. I'm just going to drill a couple of holes in it every so often for drainage, just to be safe. And over here the same thing. I'm just going to put like a 1-inch lip all the way along it and just bend it over. That way that's done. I got to do the same issues over here with this here. And I got 2 holes up here I want to weld up. These ones here. They had nuts and bolts put in it to hold the hood latch in, but I'm changing all that. So that's basically what I'm going to conquer here today, is get this all welded up, grinded up, and holes drilled in it. Get this radiator mounted, get that AC piece mounted, and get the holes drilled for the bottom of this. So that is done. Then I can remove all this here, and it knows where everything got to go. And when it comes time to put the motor transmission in it, it can go back in it, and that'll be fine. So let's get this done. So here's where we're to. Here's the cross member here. What I did is I mounted it up in place, found the spot where I wanted, clamped it on, and then I marked the holes in the bottom of the chassis rail, and then I drilled out the chassis rail. This is what I did in here. And I got 3/8 nuts put in there, and I welded them into the chassis itself, because this is going to be hard to get at later on when the front and everything goes on it, so I want to do it that way. In the previous video, I was talking about where I was welding these nuts on, what people called them, and I couldn't think of the word, and a lot of you pointed out Fitzserts. Yeah, I know. I got a mind on me, just keeps forgetting words. I knew what they were, I just couldn't place the word at the time. Let's just call these Fitzserts, all right? Welded on nuts. Look, all the steel and everything in there and all the rust. I'm going to blow that out. Yep. Anyway, so I did that, and then I drilled out and welded on the actual mounting plate right here. This here was hardened steel. It was bad iron, right? I wanted to replace it and put something else there, but then I had all these alignment issues I had to figure out because it already lines up to this here, so I said it is what it is. If it cracks, I'll have to readjust it then. I went and drilled a second hole in it. I'm going to put Fitzserts on the back of it and use a 5/16 bolt in through the front of the rad support, and I'm going to plate the rad support right where that goes, and so it'll be solid mounted. Got the other one done as well. So now that I got all this done, I can bolt up the lower rad support in place, and that part is done. Then I got to work on getting the condenser straightened away. So here's what I got done. I got this doohickey, condenser I suppose it's called. This is the original hole here. I moved it back 1 inch. So when I moved it back, it was the same setup as on the top. Just drill them and tap them with the actual bolt itself. There's 3 bolts. There's one here, there's one down on the bottom here, and there's another one over here. All I did is I moved it back 1 inch. Out looking at the car, there seems to be lots of clearance there. Here's a condenser here on the original car, and you can see the distance here between everything. That was a pulley there. This comes back a good ways. If you move that back 1 inch, it only comes in. It's a bit tighter to the actual pulley, but not as bad, not that bad. So I should be fine where I got that put to, because I have roughly about 2 inches from there to there in order to get clearances on that there. So I got clearances still on that there. So that'll be fine. This up here is the issue I was talking about earlier. This one here, this is the farthest thing back. So you can move all this back. The power steering will be good. I just got to shorten the upper hose. But this thing here, there's about 3 inches here. And when I move this back, it's going to be about to here. So that's the actual radiator. And this one here, it's the exact same setup in this. I'm just going to move all this from this one over to the other car. So that should be no issues there. Up here now, what I ended up doing, because everything moved back, I had the clearance for the pipe. All I did is I put it in a vise, and I bent it down into the vise. I opened up the vise, and I hammered it down into the actual opening in the vise to get the clearances there. So I got lots of clearances there now on that, where that bolt's on there now. So now I have all this radiator stuff done. So I'm going to turn around and mount that there now and have that part of it done. Another piece of the puzzle completed. I went and stripped out one of the bolts when I was doing the side piece, so I got to rob one off the parts cart to replace that later. But you can see down through here now, there's where the transmission lines passes down through right here. And that's just barely touching the canister. Would have been nice if I moved it over another 1/16 of an inch. I could probably pull the bottom of the radiator back small bit too. I might do that just to get clearances on that, but I'm fine with that. And over here, everything's fine. The clearances are made. The radiator's mounted. Now I can turn around and just go ahead now and know that when I put the motor transmission in, all that has its place. And I know it's the front and everything's going to bolt onto it. But I'm going to leave that where it's to for now, because I want to get this all welded up and do one test fit on it just to make sure that I got everything where I want it. Now, this one here is just straightforward. I got some, you can see the distance here. I'm going to trim off these sections here, give them a clean up, trim these off, clean this up here. I want to weld all this on the inside here. I want to bend this up in here, put the lip so it continues on. I want to bend the lip on the bottom side of this here. I want to put some little braces right here on both sides and do much the same thing over here. Cut and remove all this stuff. Then over here, I got to remove a section of this here. And I want to reinforce it so this here passes down underneath this here and goes back up across this again. That is my goal. So I'm going to turn around now and just start trimming all this stuff up. I'll get all this welded up stuff and get these few angles and everything straightened away. All I'm going to do is just mark that down through there, bend them up on an angle, weld that all up solid, and then trim it off. That's all. Nothing fancy. I'll go ahead now and get that done. These Motor Master grinders are absolute junk, but I will say this one here, I've had these when I had my shop, and I think I got stuck one day and I had to go out and buy a couple of grinders, and I had one last a day and another one last a week. This one here, I must have this 10 years now, and it only gave up the ghost today. The gear drive and everything in here is gone now. So when you fire it up, nothing works. So, gotta retire this old puppy. She served me well. She's done a lot of modifications. So, I gotta go dig out another grinder now, just for this. Can't go get rid of them too quick because the plug on this is a good plug and the cord, there's not a mark on that, was never hooked once. I got another grinder here, one of my collection. I took over from over here. I got no shortage of grinders. Another one down there. So I'm going to haul the cord off of this now and put that one in the recycling bin. So you saw me there, I went and cut off any excess ones. If this was too long, I trimmed it off. And then I turned around and I just took a piece of angle iron and I bent up the flange on this end here. So this actually continues on, the flange do. And I bent it up and then I just went ahead and welded everything up and grinded everything up. Never got fussy with it. Everything is welded inside and out here now, all the way along. I come over here, I also bent up the flange here on the bottom as well, all the way around, and then welded up this section here so this goes all the way across the front here now. So I've got a flange now bent all the way along here. Over here, I've done the same thing. Got this all cut up, grinded, bent the lip up here, grinded, dressed it, put a flange on it here. Come over as far as here and stopped. This is going to be my last piece I'm going to do. There's couple more things I want to get done. I want to weld up these holes here. I got to tap them back from the back side and just weld them up so they're done. And then I want to put some reinforcements right here and right here. I'm going to dream up something for that, and just all I'm going to do is clean them up there and weld that right into there with a couple of tack welds here and a couple of tack welds there. I'm not going to get too fussy with it. And I'm going to get that welded up as well. So I got that all welded and grinded up. That's brand new. Down here, I found this 14 gauge, I think it's like 1.5 by 1.5 square stock over underneath the bench. And I cut the ends off it here, like so, and just trimmed them up. Made these little braces out of them. I'm not getting too carried away with it. That'll go there, and that'll go there. And that'll be the two mounts. I'll drill them back from the other side. I'll just run a couple of beads up here and along the bottom, just to give it a bit of strength, and they'll be done. And I got them all installed and drilled, the hole drilled in them. Here you go. Two little reinforcements there now. For the front valves, just to give it a bit of strength. They're done. Now I got one more piece to do here. I still got to do the latch, but I got to put it on for that. Right here, I got to do a reinforcement here. Something tells me that I should bolt this on, for the simple fact that, and put the fenders and everything on it, because I think where I welded all this up, this corner might have pulled this way on me, and I've after moving it around, and I think this here might be off. So my best bet is now to take this here now, bolt it back on the rig, and start welding this together on the truck before I takes it off again. Something was telling me, because when I've after doing enough of this, and I've done a lot of heavy welding on this here, solid welds, I said, Tony, you moved all that, guaranteed. And what I ended up doing, right here, you can see the gap, and then it tips in on the bottom. You see me tweaking this side over here to get this to work right. I wanted to get that done before I did anything with that. So I went ahead and I got that tweaked, and I took the actual rad support off. Now I'm here now, and I got to turn bottom up. This is what I got to work on here now. What I got to do is I got to put strength from here to here and cut all this out of the way. So I got to join two of these together. But I got to make access in here for that line to pass in through. And this is how I'm going to start doing it. This is the piece that I need to actually go down and fit around the actual two lines. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to build up across it here. I'm going to box either end of it here just to give it strength. So this here will actually come across, turn up around, go down around this way here. That is my whole plan. I won't cut none of this out until I got all this here up here made and I get it all reinforced. So all I'm going to do here now is just clean this up, and I'm going to weld that on there and cut it off to the width that it needs to be. All I'm going to do is cap the front and the back of it, and what I'll do is I'll show you that when I goes to do it. So I got this welded on the inside here, on the outside, like so. And what I got done is I trimmed it up to the width of the bottom one. Then I went over and took some flat gauge. This is 18 gauge I'm going to make this out of. And then I just cut a square piece out and I just start shaping it. And this is what I come up with. I'm going to weld that on there, like so. I have a second one there I'm going to weld on the other side. And then I'm going to cap the top of it. And that's where my strength is going to come from. So that way that I can cut all this out. And then this here should stay as it was before, and I got access to get in there to work on the actual transmission lines. So I'm going to go ahead now, fit this in place, and get these here welded on. Here's what I come up with. Just made out of multiple pieces. This comes over and then it tips up. I made an outside section and inside section and welded them on. I welded it all on the inside. Once I had it all welded up on the inside, I've done the same thing with the other side. Made up a second one of them. Then I just cut off a large strip, because this bends, this turns in, right? When it goes down here so far. So I just made a large strip, and then, so it was nice and big, and I cut it to fit as I went around. I just got involved in that time and just got going with it. You can actually look through this way here, and you can see the angle that it goes on. That's all made from one piece. I never made no templates. I just welded a flat piece on there. Just made sure I had lots of excess up here, and I cut it off. Here it is on the floor. That's the piece that there was originally like so. That's how big that was. That's what I started off with. Piece like that, and then just worked my way around it. So now I got that there. I'm just going to give that a quick clean up there now. Not going to get too carried away with it. And I think that's going to be good enough for that, because it's all reinforced and it's all made out of 18 gauge. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut this entire section out of it. I was going to cut so much out of it and then run a piece up the side of it. I don't think I'm going to bother with it now. I'm just going to come up here straight and just come across here with it. And that's it. Be done with it. There it is. I trimmed it all up around here. I trimmed it all up here. There's the piece I cut out. I figured I'd just take the whole works out of it, be done with it, not worry about it. This here I think is going to make it strong enough for this here to pass through this here. And I think I'm going to be able to have access then I get in there that if I got to get wrenches or something down where I can get at it. I got everything done on this now except for this here. I got to make a plating system for that. That's for the latches. We'll do that when I put the radiator support back on. Right here, bolts onto the inner fender well. Maybe I'll weld nuts on that one. Yeah, I'll probably do that there. No, they're going to interfere. Probably put a clip on that or something on the other side. Not going to worry about them ones there. These ones over here, same thing. These here bolt onto the steel piece. I don't want to interfere with the grill coming back this way. And these two here are the ones I got to work on now. These are the two that I got rigged up here. Okay, now I don't want to be trying to put this together with nuts and bolts. I like to lay it in place and just screw a couple nuts in it and have the nuts welded on the back side of it, so that's done. I went out yesterday and bought a pile of nuts and bolts for this truck because I only got a limited amount of bolts. So I went out and I found some stuff that is pretty interesting. I went to a place called Newfound Distributors, and they have a large selection of nuts, bolts, and clips and fasteners and everything. You know, they've had a lot of stuff that I've looked for over the years. I know the owners of it personally, but this is what I come up with. Right here, this is what I got for to bolt the truck together, but I don't have enough of them. I'm going to put these ones probably on the top of the fenders and up in the visual places, but there's places where I can put these, and I picked up these ones here. They got like a washer built onto them. I didn't want to have, I was trying to find these ones here again, but they never had nothing like that in stock. I could get them on Amazon, but the price of them are a little bit out to lunch for what I wanted to pay for them. So I got them, and then there was these clips here. I needed a number of them, so like this stuff I use a lot of, and it's a 5/16, 5/16, and I can use this on almost anything, but I can use these here clips now in places where I goes to put this all together. Now here's the big thing. You saw me welding this stuff together here. This is what I was using, just a regular 5/16 nut. Well, here's what I found. I come across, I've used these before. These got a collar on them. These are great because now I got something that I can actually weld to along here without worrying about burning into the threads, right? Because you can see the difference in the size of them, okay? This is the ones that I got. So I'm going to use these ones here now for welding on places where I want to have it threaded. So I'll just lay this in place and I'll weld it up. I've used that nut combination now a few times on this already. And these are just regular nuts I got welded on this here. Right here you can see that's all I got done with them. They're just welded on to the actual plating system, and then I can just bolt stuff on, and I haven't got to worry about needing a wrench. Do the same concept right here for this mount. I'm going to weld the nuts on the back side of it so I can just spin them on from the front. After they're actually welded up and everything, I always like to run a tap through them just to be safe. Every now and again you'll get a little like knob of wire or something that'll go in there, or the heat will transfer and just change the actual nut itself, and I'll just run a tap through them just to clean them up, that's all. So I got it all bolted on. That looks the part there now. I don't have no access, no problems getting that. They come out, they go up, and they go back in through here, so I got room here for everything. I don't know what I'm going to have to do with the grill. If I got to clearance anything on the grill, on the bottom of the grill, or even on the valance itself, I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll just trim it up as I need. I just got the majority of it done, and I got the rad support section of it done. That's all I'm concerned about. I went ahead then, I started bolting it all together with the clips. Got the new clips, the new bolts put in it, and I put the original ones up top. Over here, this is where this one bolted on. And there's always something, right? Because I got this all done, it all looks so nice. There's where the original bolt go, and I cut all this out of it. So I got to move it over here. I got to flatten out this piece here because there's a bit of a curve on it. And I'm going to move the bracket over, drill a new hole here, and bolt the bracket on here. All this is like a little L bracket that goes on that way. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to set that up there, drill that there, and bolt that bolt on there. So I went ahead and I did that. Did nothing. I just laid it in place, marked it, drilled a hole in the actual valance here, put the bolt in through and put a new clip on it, bolted on. So now that's got us a new home there and it's bolted on. Now I moved on to here. I dug out the latch setup and it took me a minute to figure out which way this went, up or down or backwards. I think this one here is upside down. I got turned over because the paint is on this side here, and it'd be kind of hard to paint the bottom side of it. So I got to flip that one over there. But this is what I'm talking about now. What I got to do is I got to make some sort of mounting point here. So I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to take a square piece of metal that'll mount right here, and I can just weld it right on here. I'm going to drill 2 holes in it, weld nuts on the back of it, bring it over and bolt it on here, clamp it in place, and weld it on. That's it. I'm not going to get carried away with it, and that will be the latch mechanism. This here kept tearing clear from all this here because it's just all the weakness of it. So I'm probably going to use like a piece of 14 gauge plate or something and put there. And when I drills it in, it's got lots of strength when I welds the nut on the back side of it, and that'll make it nice and strong. So I'm just going to go ahead now, find a piece of plate, cut it out, and bring it over and mark it. This is all I did is I turned around, I got this plate here, I cut out a piece of it, the height of this here, and made it 5 inches wide. And I got it laid in place there now, and I'm after marking the holes where they got to be drilled out. Now what I did here is I have the latch moved all the way up. There's an adjustment on the bottom side here, you can see it there. So I have it slid all the way up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill it on the bottom of this circle, so that way I can lower this down, and the hole itself, this slotted section here and this slotted section here, will be parallel. So that way I got the full range of this distance here to move it up and down. This one here is permanent on both sides, so this got to be drilled out like that. And all I'm going to do is drill them out and put one of them bolts on the back side of it and fit it up there and weld it on. That's the extent of it. I got the bolts put on. You can see they're right nice. Now they would be right easy to weld on. Then I'll just unbolt them, and then this will be the outside of the plate itself, right? So I'll go ahead now, get them welded up. Just got to put it in place. Had the oblong, the little hole in there, and I cut none of this out. I'm just going to put this in there. I had to, the holes that were in there. This one here, there was all kinds of clearances for the nut to pass through. This one here, I had to clean it off a small bit, but that's fine. It fits in there nice and flush. Everything is good there now. Just clamp that on, weld it on. I went and test fit the actual bolts, make sure they're all good. Get this welded on. What's burning in there now, I wonder? It's not turning black or nothing. It's a fine bit of smoke coming out of it. That'll be fine. But you can see there now, I'll keep an eye on that. It's a fine bit of smoke coming out of it. You see me here welding this up, and you see me the way I pulses. This is just a technique that I picked up when I'm just doing sheet metal work. I like having a hot weld, and if I find with a hot weld, if you start to run a bead, you'll actually burn holes and stuff. And I also find when you start running beads, you get a really high bead. That's the reason why you see that I just do tack, 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 tack all the way around. It's a hot weld. It's not something you do with structural panels, like doing chassis and stuff like that. But for sheet metal work, I find it great because it lays the weld down, and sometimes you get a nice roll of nickels and everything, and it almost looks like you tagged it. So I'm just going to clean this up with the grinder now, and that's done. And there you go, another hobble done. I got that all straightened away and all cleaned up and grinded off. I don't mind that being stepped up a small bit. That's perfect for this old truck. It's nice and supportive, nice and strong and heavy there now. It's heavier than what was there before. I got that done. Now that I'm at this here, doing all these nut inserts, or nut certs as the boys calls them. These are Fitzserts. I got to do a bunch more on this here. I got weld ones on the back of this here for the fenders. And I have the other plating system for the other side that I got to weld nuts onto. So I'm going to go ahead now and get all that stuff done so I can actually bolt all this stuff back together on it, because the next thing on the agenda then, to finish off this front now, we got to mount the hood. I don't get that done today because I just want to have it all ready so when someone shows up here, I can actually say, here, give us a hand, put the hood on this, right? And I'll go that route with it. But I want to have it all ready, so I want to get this stuff done and get the other hood hinge straightened away so I can bolt all that together. So I got this one all made up. I had to run taps through that one there. I got a bit hot on it. I find if you're just tacking it, it welds up better. You don't need to weld the entire nut, because from the factory, when these were designed and they were built this way, usually it was 4 dots on either corner of the nut, and that was it. So just running like a little bead on one side, bead on the other, you're fine. I got all these here done. All of them are done. Didn't have to run tap through on them. You can always tell when you start on bolting it, if it comes out right nice. And if it's a bit tight coming out, then just want to tap down through it. Sometimes the heat gets in it and just moves the threads a bit. You just got to clean up the threads. While I was at it, I decided I'm going to turn around and put them over here as well. These here all holes the inner fender well on. They bolt on from the other side, so I can just put the inner fender well up there and I haven't got to worry about trying to do a nut and bolt here. And I did the same thing over here for this inner fender well. So there are 2 of them are the same way. So I got them done. Now I've been looking at everything here on the front of it. I've noticed over here there's an insert right here that the grill bolts to. I've had to run the bolt through and it's stripped out. And then I went and looked over here and realized there was neither one there. So I got to weld 2 nuts on there as well. So I'm going to turn around and take the fenders off it there now and get them done. I want to get this all done so I can bolt it all together on the front again and finish it up. So when I start bolting the grill and everything in it, I haven't got to worry about blowing it all apart again. So I'm going to go ahead now and let go of all these bolts, take this whole fender off this truck again, weld up that piece there. You can get at it from the back side, but I just soon take it off, do a nicer job on it. I always say work smarter, not harder. That was a tricky one to get in there. You'd never do it on the truck, but I got the bolt put in it there now, and that one's done. I got to do the same thing with the other fender. I'm going to put this one together now, and I'm going to put the inner fender well, or not the inner fender well, the steel apron section. The inner fender well I don't need because there's no structure to that. And get this one here bolted all together. I got the plating system put in place. I figured now since I got it off, I'll show you what it looks like. You can see it on the inside here now, the way this is. Now I can move this around. If I got to come ahead an inch or back an inch or down an inch or whatever from way out of whack, this here will keep everything sensible. I can weld up the other holes after. And then when I'm happy where it's to, I'll just come in here, clamp it in place and weld it on, and that'll be it for that. So I got that all done. I can put this inner fender well on. That's what I'm calling it. It's an apron or some sort. And I can bolt that one on, and then I'm going to work on getting the other one on. So I got this one over here replaced. This is the one was there. This is the way they are from the factory. They're just pressed into place and held in, and the sheet metal keeps them turning. You tap on them, they fall out. So there's not a lot of strain on them. I think there's a small like heat transfer when they're put in, and they're almost like a very light spot weld on them. But I got the nut on the back side of it. It's a bit of a gap and everything on the top side there. I'm not worried about it. I got the bottom side fully welded up. That's good enough for this. So the one thing you can say about old vehicles, there's always lots of slack and play in the adjustment of the bolts. They're not like modern cars. So I got that fender on, the inner fender well on. I'm going to get the other side all put together and do the same thing. So I got this one all put back together. And what I went and did then is I put everything, bolted everything on. I got all the bolts put up across here. I want to find out how many of these original ones I had to make sure that the actual, when you pop the hood, this is what you see, is the actual original bolts. Coming across here, original bolts. Now right here I don't have original bolts because I think I'm going to change them out. I have other ones there. But I have 2 of them there for now. Original bolt there. All original bolts going down through here. Rest of it doesn't matter because it's all hid. They're the ones that I was concerned about that you could see. Over here, I remembered I had one hole drilled right here and had to put a nut on it. Had to weld that on, so I got that done. I got everything put back on the front of this here on the top side now, so this is ready for fitment for the hood. I'm going to need a hand with that, so I'm not going to be too concerned about that today. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bolt the lower valance on. For the bumper, because I also got to fit the bumper on the front of this, so I'll get everything done. I want to get all the clips and everything put on over here and get everything bolted up snug just to see how everything fits and just size up what's involved in here. I may have to notch this, I don't know, but I'm not going to be concerned about it right now. Just want to get that bolted on. So now I got all new clips and everything on these ones here for them to bolt up. These ones here were already welded on, and I got the other side done as well. So I'm going to bolt this on the truck now. How can a guy do YouTube when this fella's over here cutting his grass, right? Like, does he got better things to be at? Oh, nothing better than the sound of a lawnmower. Tells you it's summer. Anyway, and there you have it. That bolted on really nice, lined up nice. I had to loosen these bolts up here and bolt that up and get that lined up because that was only a certain width across. So I had a nice line up here, going down through here. And done the same thing over here. And lined it up along there and tightened up all them 3 bolts. And then I tightened up these 2 here after the fact. Tighten up this one here in the middle, 2 of them. They're a bit tricky to get at because I'd say they're going to be a wrench thing. I was in there with the air ratchet and kind of like beat everything off. I was replacing that anyway. But that's nice and solid there now. The entire front now is actually bolted on the truck, finished. I got every bolt tightened up on it. Now there's alignment issues and stuff like that for the doors, and I don't mind that. But I just wanted to get everything, make sure everything, I had enough bolts for everything. Everything bolted up tight. Everything is bolted on. So, you know, the next thing for all this now is bodywork and primer and paint. This is getting paint. All the inner fender wells. And I'm going to paint all that. But this here is all getting primer. This stuff here. That's all I was getting for the year. So it's been a busy week here again. I got taken away during the middle of the week. I had to help my brother tear down his old patio. He's getting new patios put on his house. So I was helping him with that. So that killed a day and a half for me. So I've been out here trying to get enough out for contact. Today is Friday. It is now 11:15 in the morning. And I got to try to get this video done for 7 o'clock tonight. So I got a lot of work cut out. Yeah. But yeah, I got this straightened away. All that stuff is ready to go. So the front of this is all done. The latches are done. Rad Sport's done. Finished. I'm not doing nothing else to Rad Sport. I don't think I'm going to have much in the way. I may have to trim this a small bit. But it seems like I got a fair bit of clearance there. If I got to trim this around like this, that's fine. It doesn't bother me not one bit. If I got to cut a big section out of that, yeah, that's it. That's all you can do. But what I'll do is I'll put all the lines and everything on the car and I fix this on. If I got to cut it, I'll cut it. That's it. All this up here lined up good. They're all tightened up. I had enough bolts for all that. Next thing for this now is to bolt the actual hood on. I'm going to need help with that. Hint, hint, boys, if anybody's out there locally. Take the hint. I need a hand to put hood on this. Now, over here on our list. So we're over here and we have weld up Rad Sport. Backside, I got that done. And the hood latch is done. Okay, we got to put the glass in the doors, sun visors, mount the bumper, seat belt mounts, seat mounts, mount the hood. That don't seem like a lot of work, you know that? Now, the grill. I got good news. One quick note, I said I had taillights ordered for this. Second time now I ordered taillights for this truck on Amazon. And after a week, they came back and told me that they weren't going to ship, and they canceled the order and they refunded me. That's twice now. So I'm still out taillights. I haven't got no taillights. I got everything else now lined up. I got to go pick up a tailgate. And, but taillights, I'm still no luck with tailgates. But here we go. I got a grill. Apparently, what I've figured out, this is the original grill belonged to this truck. The gentleman that I got the parts off of, apparently he owned this truck at one point, and he dismantled it, took some stuff off it, and this is one of the things that he took off it. This is the front bumper off it. It's a decent chrome front bumper. Now, I wasn't expecting this. I have one lined up and bargained for on the mainland that I got to pick up when I go to Moncton this year. And when I went down to get these parts, he told me I got to take everything that he had there belonged to the truck. And I said, well, you know, that's fine. So I went down and I looked, and this was laid out by the door, and I noticed the other bumper there. I said, that's the rear bumper. Because I figured this truck would have had like a step side bumper on it. But no, I don't know if this is the bumper belonged to this truck or not. But it's the bumper I was after. I wanted the actual vinyl chrome bumper. Now, it's got a few twists and bangs in it. It's got a trailer hitch piece put on it there. Don't matter, because I'm going to put a trailer hitch back on it again anyway. It's a nice 10-footer. This grill is immaculate. The headlight pots, right? All that is in really good shape. The entire grill, no marker lights. But I do have lenses. I bought new lenses. They showed up the other day. If I got to make a pot for it, it's fine. Because I'm planning on using the Crown Vic lights and everything in this. The wiring. So I'm going to wire them into that. If I got to make a little box for this here for the lens to screw into it, that's fine. But I got to go check on the guy I'm getting tailgate from. I got to go see him. I don't know if he got any of the smalls around. Like, he might have a couple of these bezel pieces kicking around. Even if I can get a lender one off him, so I can actually modify, make one. But yeah, that's that. Over here, then, he also gave me this. 2 headliners. There's the trim for the headliners. There's a chrome one there that's pitted up a bit. And then there's the white one. There's a strip missing across the back. I don't mind that. I wasn't expecting none of that. A couple of extra door panels. I couldn't believe this dash pad. He said, take that. It's a dash pad. And there's not a mark on it. Look at the speaker hole. There's not a hole or crack in it nowhere. Unreal. You purists now talking about me not going with the original dash. I never had that at the time, boys. So, you know, but that's minor. I think I'm going to donate that to the other guy who's after helping me out. I got the truck off myself and they have to give me a bunch of parts. But I want to send a special thank you out to Lou. Lou's the man that rounded all this stuff up. He found out the history on this truck. He knew the truck. And then he started making phone calls. And he was the one that located all this stuff for me. And I greatly appreciate it, Lou. Thanks a million. So now we got all this stuff here. I got a grill. I can turn around and go in now, start bolting that in and figure out how all that bolts in and whatnot. I bought in a set of headlight buckets. I bought them online, so I got them. I bought headlights at the swap meet. The only thing I got to figure out now is go to Princess Auto or somewhere and see if I can find some ID lights that'll go in there, cover them up. I don't know if I'm going to bother with trying to get them. Have a look online, see if there's anything around for them that you can buy like on Amazon or something for these bumpers. I don't know. I'm not going to, I can just imagine they'd be worse than the taillights. They'd be like $25 a set and they'd be like $400 landed. Yeah. But that's it. As where we're to on this one now. I got to go in and start making up a video on this. So the next video, oh, that reminds me. Another one looked after. So, you mount the hood, seat mounts, seat belt mounts, front bumper, sun visors, and put glass in the doors. So the only thing left to do on the front now is mount the bumper. And that could be, I don't know, I might go to some easier stuff yet, because I got to put the bumper on that there. I might go in and just do a bunch of the smalls on the inside there. I got to strip the interior out of it, get the seat and all that mounted. Getting close. If all goes well, I should have this done next week. All this stuff done. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave this one. I hope the tips were good. And until next time.